Let's go ahead and jump right into lesson 7-1. So here what we're looking at is what we call the Pythagorean theorem, and there's a couple things we're going to highlight, underline, that I really need for you to make sure that you highlight and underline on your paper as well in your notes. Okay, the first thing that we're going to look at here is that we have a triangle, but we just don't have any special triangle. We can use the Pythagorean theorem when we have a right triangle. So we see that right angle, that is a right triangle, okay? I also want to make sure that we understand the side lengths and what we call them. And across from that right angle, we're always going to have C. And C is always going to be the longest side. It's called the hypotenuse. So across from that right angle, we have C, and that's our hypotenuse. The other two sides are our shorter sides, A and B. And A and B, they're going to form that right angle. So they're kind of touching and meeting together to form that right angle. And they are the shorter sides called legs. So A and B we call legs, and C we call the hypotenuse. So we looked at our formula yesterday. In our 3-act math video. We also looked at it at the explain it. And so we came to conclude that the Pythagorean theorem is when you have a right triangle, key word there, two words, key word, right triangle, and it's a squared plus b squared equals c squared. So the small and the medium sides squared are going to equal the large side squared. So all we're going to do for the first try it here is we're going to see if it actually, we're going to prove it. Okay, so let's look at our first. So the try it, and I'm sorry, I'm on page 382. The bottom of page 382 at the try it. So as we look at this problem, it says a right triangle has side lengths 15 centimeters, 25 centimeters, and 20 centimeters. How can you use the Pythagorean theorem equation and describe how these side lengths are related? Well, the first thing that jumps out to my head is I've got to always remember C is the hypotenuse, the longest side. Which is my longest side? The 25. So we're going to put the 25 in for C. 25 is going to have to go for C. The other two sides are legs. And we're technically adding, so it doesn't matter if 15 is A or B or 20 is A or B. So I'm just going to go 15 squared plus 20 squared equals 25 squared. And what we're doing here is we're trying to see if this works. Will this make a right triangle? They gave you all three side lengths, and we're going to see if the left side equals the right. So let's start with 15 times 15. Because 15 squared, and that is 225. Plus, if we do 20 times 20, because 20 squared, that's 400. And then when we do 25 times 25, that is equal to 625. So does the left side equal the right? Is 225 plus 400 equal to 625? And the answer is yes. So what this means is that this will make a right triangle, and these could be side lengths of it. Remember, C, the hypotenuse, always the longest. Let's go ahead and look at two more examples. So in example 2 at the top of page 383, they gave us two side lengths, and they're asking you to find the hypotenuse. The longest side, remember the longest side is across from the 90-degree angle, so we know that is going to be C. And they walked through this example. They know A and B. We're always going to start out with that formula. A squared plus B squared equals C squared. And as they walked through this formula, they ended up finding that the C side length is 17. So this one was done for you, but I just want to jump in and I want to do an example with you, and then we'll practice in class. So you would would like, you can feel free to go ahead and turn to page 386. This is a problem out of the book on page 386. What I know is that I have to find C, the missing side length, the hypotenuse, which we know is going to be the longest side. We have a right triangle, so we can use the Pythagorean theorem. A squared plus B squared equals C squared. 36 and 15 are my A and B. It doesn't matter which one goes. I usually just start with the smaller one. So we have 15 squared plus the medium size, which is 36 squared, is going to equal C squared. So I just put these values into the formula. And we're just going to solve for C. So 15 times 15 we know is 225 plus 36 squared. Remember that means times itself. 36 times 36, which is 1,296. And this is equal, these two areas are going to be equal to C squared, or the area of the square of side C. We need to add those two values together, and I get 1521, so 1,521, and that is equal to C squared. Now, this goes back to what we just did in our last unit, topic 1. We have to solve this equation. And when we're solving equations, we know the inverse operations. And the inverse of squaring a number is taking the square root. So the side length of C here is going to be 39. And we can write that as 39 feet. We have to use that square root button on both sides of we have to square root both sides and use that button on our calculator. I want to remind you this needs to be the longest side because it's C. Is 39 longer than 15? Yes. Is 39 longer than 36? Yes. So this is the longest side. And that's how we can solve for our hypotenuse, C. That's all I have right now for solving for side lengths of a right triangle using the Pythagorean theorem.